Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today we're going to be looking at one of the new rules, or set of rules really, that we've seen coming out for Warhammer Age of Sigmar 3rd edition, and we're going to be looking at armies that are going to get the most out of that rule. Today we're going to be looking at the new monstrous abilities tables and sort of seeing how we can get the most out of this with monsters. So we're going to look at armies that have access to a lot of monsters that in a variety of different ways, whether that be access to like cheap monsters or really good monsters. Access to them at Battleline is definitely something really good, especially if you're going to have lots of them. So this is going to allow you to use all those abilities and get the most out of this new little table. So this is going to be 10 armies that are going to get the best out of monsters in the new edition. Number 1, Ogor Mawtribes. Ogor Mawtribes are one of the armies that has access to Battleline Behemoths, or Battleline monsters. They have this in both the Thundertusk and the Stonehorn in their Beast Rider variations, and they also have access to hero monsters, which is another great thing in the new edition. With all the new hero abilities as well, having powerful hero monsters is just doubling down on these new rules and getting the most out of them. They've got a wide variety of the monsters. While they generally are on the same sort of beast, the Thundertusk or the Stonehorn, you do have Frostlord, Huskard, and Beast Rider variations of both, so you've got 6 different variations of monsters within the force here. Ogres just are a good monster army in general. They can play all monsters in a variety of different ways, and they're generally pretty good. They're a really fun and easy army to play with this all monster variation, where they sort of just run forward, smash, and do what you want a monster army to do. So they're definitely going to get the most out of all these extra abilities, being able to do things to their advantage. Let's not forget as well that Ogre monsters for capturing objectives count as 10 models. So this is massive when you consider it. This is just an edge on other monsters within the game. The fact that the Ogres here are going to get that little bit more out of their monsters in the scoring side of the game, in addition to all these other rules as well. Number 2, Flesh Eater Courts. Flesh Eater Courts have a particular sub-faction called Grissogor, which allows them to get both the Royal Terrorgeist and Royal Zombie Dragon as Battleline. These are the unmounted variations. On top of that, they have access to a fantastic hero monster in the Abhorrent Arched region on Terrorgeist, or as well the Zombie Dragon variation as well. So you have some really powerful flying monsters as well, which is just awesome. Let's not forget, flying is just such a massive part of what makes these Terrorgeists and all that from Grissogor as powerful as they are, because not only can they do the damage, and even do the damage when they die, when they're dying, when they fight first, in so many different ways they get that damage output out there, but they also fly, so your opponent has to play extra sort of careful and prepare in certain ways with screens and stuff to make sure your flying units can't get to where they're going to get. So it's just that extra little bit of preparation to have to play against this side of army. Flesh Eater Courts, as mentioned, they just have these abilities coming out, so when the Terrorgeists go in, they're going to kill, even if they're not doing the fighting first. They can fight when they die with command abilities and a whole bunch of other stuff. They're just a really terrifying army to face, and they're going to get so much out of all these additional little monster abilities. Number 3, very much like their Flesh Eater Courts brethren, the Soulblight Gravelords from the Death Grand Alliance have access to a sub-faction that allows them to take Terrorgeists and Zombie Dragons, the unmounted variations, as Battleline options, and this is in the Avangori Dynasty. The Avangori Dynasty also gives you access to some really cool named characters, like Lukavai, who is an awesome named character variation of the Vengorian Lord, which is another model that fits so well in here. These weird centaur, like vampiric nightmare hell creatures, whatever you want to call them. And it's just cool. These new models are going to get a ton of cool buffs out of this, and the Terrorgeists and the Zombie Dragons are going to get a little bit more of a kick out of all these different abilities. You're going to be able to get that more out of a sub-faction that really does help you play with a fantastic monster mash sort of list. We've done some videos on the channel talking about Avangori before, and while it may not be the most powerful, it definitely is going to get a nice little boost to its ability to be played on the table with all these additions to the monster rules that are coming out in the new edition. Number 4, Cities of Sigmar. Cities of Sigmar have a sub-faction called Amphigard, which allows you to take Battleline War Hydras and Charybdis, but what makes Cities of Sigmar get a lot out of these new rules is they have access to some really good, cheap monster heroes. The Dreadlord on Black Dragon and the Frigil General on Griffin are fantastic hero monsters you can get the most out of these new rules with. not only are they going to get the monster rules, but they're going to get the hero rules on top of that. So they're just going to get that little bit more out of these relatively cheap models. Let's not forget as well that you have the ability to bring in monsters from some other factions. Things like the Stormcast Eternal Stardrake are going to be brought in and get access to these rules within Cities of Sigmar, Sylvaneth as well, and even some of the stuff from Lumineth if you're going to be playing in things like Settler's Gain as well. So you've got access to a much wider pool of monsters than what it may first seem. So suddenly those 1 in 4s might start looking like a popular choice to bring in a monster to get the most out of these new abilities for Cities of Sigmar. But let's not forget the original basis is that they do have access to cheap monsters, so you're going to get the most out of these abilities for very low cost. Number 5, Sylvaneth. Now, this might seem like a weird one, as Sylvaneth certainly aren't an army up near the top of the meta in any way. However, where Sylvaneth are going to get the most access out of this is the fact that most of their heroes are in fact monsters. The Tree Lord Ancient, the Spirit of Durthu, and Alariel herself are all monsters, so they're going to get access to this. Plus, on top of that, they're heroes, so they're getting the best of both worlds there. Also, your Tree Lord as well can become maybe a little bit of somewhat a viable option, maybe. With his access to these as well, he is relatively cheap for a monster. So you've definitely got some access to get the most out of this, just because you're already probably taking a few of these pieces in your army already. Durthu is definitely a common model in a lot of Sylvaneth armies, as is a Tree Lord Ancient for the free summoning of woods, and Alariel, maybe with her new War Scroll coming out in Broken Realms Kragnos, is definitely something to maybe have a look at with all these new additional rules as well. Number 6, Blades of Khorne. Now, Blades of Khorne don't have that many monsters within their ranks, though in fact most of them are, and most of the monsters you see in a general Blades of Khorne army are going to be Bloodthirsters. Bloodthirsters are a little bit frail, but they are a very common sight within Blades of Khorne army. In fact, there are definitely armies that run a lot of Bloodthirsters. It's not uncommon to see all 4 Behemat slots filled with monsters that are all Bloodthirsters. And for this reason, I think those generic sort of armies we see with the 4 Bloodthirsters in them are definitely going to get the most out of these rules, because they've already got the monsters in there in a very common sort of army we see on the table. So they're just going to get these new abilities for free, and they're going to be able to use them to get the more out of those Bloodthirsters that are already appearing on the table. Let's not forget as well that Blades of Khorne have access to summoning as well, where they can summon on Bloodthirsters with blood type points. So there's going to be the ability to bring a model onto the table that might not actually be in your army list and get the most out of that model, or at least get the most out of the new rules for that model by using these cool new monster abilities on the table as well. Number 7, Beasts of Chaos. Now, once again, this is an army that certainly is nowhere near the top of the competitive meta. However, much like Cities of Sigmar, they have access to a ton of cheap monsters. So what this is going to allow you to do is spend very little points to get these cool new monster abilities into your army. This is just going to allow you to play around with some really cool models, and Beasts of Chaos have cheap monsters in their plenty in their army, whether it be things like the Gorgon and Cygor that fit into your Warherd armies and are probably there already if you are collecting a Warherd specific army, or things like the Cockatrice, the Giants, and the other monsters that just fill out the ranks of the Beast of Chaos like Jabberslice, etc. You're going to be able to get these models in there quite cheap. Also, their summoning allows you to bring models on that are monsters on the flanks, so you're going to get these abilities in your army, potentially even if you don't start with them on the table, which is cool. So it's just going to have those little bit of extra effect in there that's going to allow you to bring on some monsters, and potentially if you're playing with, say, something like Darkwalkers, where you can bring your models in from the flanks if they're Warherds, so those Gorgons and Cygors coming on from the board edge, charging out of deep striking ambush, and then doing some monstrous damage and monstrous abilities where your opponent's not expecting it. Number 8, Gloomspite Gitz. Gloomspite Gitz are one of the armies with a ton of different monsters in their faction, and going over just a ton of different aesthetical choices as well. You've got the Spiderfang army with all their Arachnaroks, whether they're the unmounted versions or the ones with the wizards or the war clans on the back, or any of the different variations there. But you've also got the Troggoths as well, and you've also got the Mangler-Squigs as well on top of that. So you've just got a ton of different monstrous options here for your Gloomspite Gitz. Now, the difference here is that you have access to a lot of non-hero and hero variations, and the hero variations are great because, once again, they're just going to get the most out of all of those different rules. So you're going to get the hero rules for the heroic interventions and all that sort of stuff on top of those monstrous rules as well, which is just great. So you're going to get a ton of stuff as well for your particular Spiderfang heroes as well, and though Troggoths generally do lose out because a lot of them generally don't have the monster keyword. The Troggoth Hag, she does have the monster keyword, so there's that to add there, which is pretty darn cool. So you're going to get access to some monsters in any of these sort of sub-factions, as long as you're not playing, I guess, pure actual grots. Number 9, Seraphon. Once again, we have a sub-faction that allows you to unlock particular monsters as battle line, and in this case, Stegodons, if you're playing in the Thunder Lizards Allegiance. As you would expect from an army that is essentially the theme of dinosaurs riding other dinosaurs, you have a ton of monsters in the army. Whether that be Carnosaurs, Troglodons, Bastillodons, Stegodons, of any variation that they have of those, you just got access to a wide pool of monsters. And they're going to get the most out of this. You're generally, especially if you're playing something like Thunder Lizards, going to have more, if not at least these 4 monsters to make use of those monstrous abilities within your army. So you've got that going for you, which is just awesome. Not to mention, some of your monsters are really great, and Seraphon are in general at the moment very good in the meta, and probably in a very good place to be good in the meta going forward as well. So you've got a really competitive monster build here that is also coalesced, which means they're -1 damage, so they're tough as well. Those hero monsters with the finest hour on top could be just amazing on the table. And lastly, number 10, where would we be without mentioning Sons of Behemat? Now, the thing with Sons of Behemat is these rules state at the end of the charge phase, each player can carry out 1 Monstrous Rampage from the following table with each friendly monster. So this means you don't get the abilities of 1 on a whole unit of guns, because it does say for each monster, and they are, and not each monster unit. However, this does mean that you could have a unit of 3 Man Crushers and use multiple of these abilities from the same unit. So you could, for instance, stop your opponent being able to use command ability Stomp, and then also use Smash to Rubble at the same time, or Titanic Duel going into another monster. So you've got the ability to sort of use multiple abilities in the one combat with 1 unit at the same time, which is pretty cool. Not to mention, your Mega Guns just get a lot out of this. It's pretty cool, and for me, this is the army that you're going to be getting the most out of because, well, it's all monsters, so you're going to be able to use this across your whole army in different places, wherever you need them abilities to be used. Really, really cool. Sons of Behemat are going to get a lot of use out of this, and it's going to give them some new tricks on the table they don't have at the moment. So, what are your thoughts on all this? What do you think of the new monster rules? What monsters can't you wait to get onto the table? I know I'm going to be painting up some models to be able to use with a couple of different armies I've got, just to get these rules on the table and get playing with them and see how they work on the table. But what are some monsters you think might have some cool combinations with some of these rules on the table? I'd love to know all your thoughts and all your ideas down in the comments below. Let us know if we missed any armies as well that you think definitely worth a shout out, or any particular models from armies that you think are worth a shout out. Because while some armies might not make the most use out of this, there are definitely some models in other armies not mentioned in the video that might get used for particular models, and maybe we'll look at that in the future of particular models that might get the most out of this. But anyway, thanks for watching, and leave some comments down below and let us know what you think. Thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fine community here at Sinful Gaming, you can do so by following the link in the description of the video to our Discord server, where we're always chatting Warhammer there. Also, while you're on YouTube as well, why not go check out my featured channel section on the channel, where you'll find a bunch of other fantastic Warhammer Age of Sigmar content creators doing everything from lore videos, battle reports, tactical videos, painting tutorials, and more besides as well. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to anyone who helps support the channel on Patreon or YouTube members. Thank you to Christian Weir, James Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lyle, Outer Shot First, James Crowder, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, Tim Newman, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, and MJ. Thank you to you all, our Patreon supporters, and thank you to our YouTube members as well, Green Roots Gaming, Fire Titan, Steve T, The Real Zeop, and Chris Wallace. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can go and help support the channel by joining either Patreon or YouTube members, which you'll find the links to in the description of the video, or going and purchasing some of our merchandise from Teespring, which you'll also find linked in the description of the video. Thank you all once again. Don't forget to like and subscribe once again. Stay safe everyone, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.